Just a hearty welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Conversations in the Kitchen. I've taken a little bit of an extended break. It was a very long winter for those of you that don't live in Cape Town. It was long and cold, and so I went away for marginally warmer weather. I'm back now. So we're back. We've got this half of the year. And to get us started for this half of the year, I've got such a lovely, I'm so excited about our guest tonight. Karina Andersen is a very special, talented, incredible lady who is an intuitive depth coach. She specializes in, she calls herself a change specialist. And it's in various environments, you know, and she wrote a book, from prisons to boardrooms. I love that diversity. It's incredible. And within that has her own story that led to, and, you know, I think that often happens where our challenges form our gifts. And she's utilized that and shared that so beautifully, has written 3 books, a lie. 2 complete, but the 3rd one is ready and going to be published. Did you say this next year, 2024? So super excited. Karina, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to Conversations in the Kitchen.
It's very exciting to be here, Elaine. Thank you for inviting me into your beautiful kitchen. It's a real privilege. Yes, thank you.
Oh, wonderful. So when we chatted earlier on in the week, there was a lot of sharing that went on, and you described your life in like 3 chapters. You put it into 3 chapters. Yeah. I love your story and the humble beginnings, and your humility and bravery of sharing part of your story. Would you mind sharing with us where it began? You know, with every coaching, the depth of a coach is really their life experience. So take us down your story. Yeah.
Take you down my story. Thank you, you know, and thank you for the privilege of the deeper sharing, because it's also what I hold space for. And also as I educate coaches and light workers in some of the darkest spaces in the human experience, so have I learned my own, you know, all my tools, all my skills have been born in the fire of my own journey. And I was reflecting this year as I'm approaching, you know, celebrating 17 years in South Africa. I was kind of reflecting on my life and the different chapters of my journey. And I realized, I'm 51, and I realized that there are 3 really significant chapters so far in my life. There's the first chapter from 1 to 17, which I would call the wounded chapter, where I learned I'm unsafe, I can trust no one. The second chapter, up until 34, was really a chapter where it felt like I was sitting in this boat, but I didn't have any oars. I was rudderless, and I was lost in time and space, and very much more in victimhood. And based on my first 17 years, really disabled. You know, it felt like I was, I felt in that space of disablement, disconnectedness. Yeah. And what was quite similar about those 2 chapters was at the end of my 17th year, I was kicked out from home. And at the end of my 34th year is when actually I arrived in South Africa. That's when I immigrated. And the man that brought me here also kicked me out after a few weeks of arriving. So it was, and bless him, and I just want to set the stage for my mindset, is that today in my last 17 years, I really started connecting the dots that nothing happens to me randomly.
Yeah.
And that's quite important in my journey of this homecoming that I've experienced in my 3rd significant chapter in South Africa, that I see that's kind of, and I often say it, there's meaning in the madness.
Yes, yes. Oh, I like that. Yes.
Yes. So that's been quite important, Elaine, you know, because as I go back into my first 2 chapters that were the really hard chapters, darker chapters, I'm able to bring this mindset and also create a lot of healing and create a lot of peace. So I'm really here today with you celebrating all 3 chapters, but also this homecoming in, you know, how I feel grounded, trusting my journey today, and also the privilege of meeting other people in their, wherever they are in their chapters, in their cycles, in their journeys. But because I've experienced everything and my journey from darkness to light, deep, deep wounding, I'm really able to hold deep, deep, profound spaces for people, being it in the healing space, being it in the active development space, business space, entrepreneurial space. You know, really my journey has taken me far and wide. And today I understand, as I've connected the dots, how meaningful that is, you know, that my journey has prepared me for my purpose.
Absolutely, as it does. I mean, you know, I think that we recognize that the challenges that we are given, you know, they say you're never given what you can't deal with, which I know at times it's easy to dispute and go, really? Like, but if you, instead of going against the grain and away from, you know, pushing against the stream, you know, going with the flow and going, okay, this is the right. What is the best way of dealing with it, or what is the teaching in it? And you know, I remember from my personal experience, the word of curiosity was so important. Like, get curious. So my question to you is, what set up, like, you know, you had a really, I know you had very trying 17 years. Going into your second chapter, it was equally difficult, as you say. What turned on the light? Like, was it something that was intuitively within you? Because I think a lot of people sit with this darkness and go, well, how do I change when I'm feeling like this? So what was your inspiration?
You know, it's interesting that when I came here to South Africa, you know, and the way I arrived, as I was saying, it was like I was kind of catapulted into my journey. It's as if my wounding and my lostness, my rudderlessness really, you know, it was easy to remain stagnant. It's easy to not move, you know, and we love our comfort zones, even if they're really not a great place to live in. But what's quite significant about arriving in South Africa was there was a different energy here. It was as if there was a heartbeat, and I couldn't put words to it when I arrived. It was just very different. The culture, the warmth, I wasn't used to that, Elaine, at all. And even if I was still quite guarded, it felt like I was just being pulled. And Rumi says it so beautifully, you know, just follow this strange pull towards what you love. It would not lead you astray. Now, I was like a cat that had been, you know, like, you know, I have a cat called Bubbles, and she's such a beautiful example of bravery, you know, like wounded. And that's how we got her from the shelter. And how she's had this courage to just see, wow, but this looks so different. Can I just get a little bit closer to this warmth and this care? And for me, it's a good symbol of how I started off. And being invited in. And what happened, Elaine, is that part of my first few years in South Africa, I started writing my first book, The Responsible Individual. The door opened to also the work I'm here to do in the world. I didn't really understand those first puzzle pieces back then. I understand it now. So in the middle of writing my book, I met a social worker at a business breakfast. I met a social worker from the prisons. And so connecting with him and beginning my prison work early 2008, and now suddenly sitting amongst men who were lost,
Yes,
who had really, you know, like it was almost for the first time I felt like, sure, I'm in a place where I can allow myself to be seen, because I was so wounded. So I created such an armor and painting pretty pictures and wearing masks. So outwardly, it was important that Karina looked really perfect, but inwardly I was broken and I was wounded. So sitting amongst other people in such an extreme situation was really what inspired me deeply to face the brutal facts of the things I had to deal with, because I had not yet dealt with these things. Like in 2002, which was 4 years before I came to South Africa, I was 30. I just turned 30. I lost the father of my children in a car accident in Germany. And it was a significant breaking point that really shook everything, and it brought a lot of release to the surface. So that was an important first step. And when I then came to South Africa, this next being catapulted in was almost like, Karina, you spent 4 years now holding your healing process. Now it's important that you grab the oars in your boat. Action. It's time to come home. So it's this, you know, and I've never done that before. It was like I was floating, but for the first time I was asked, I grabbed these oars. And that's what the 17 years has been about. But only because, Elaine, I witnessed other people grabbing their oars. So it almost felt like we're traveling together. And that was a significant inspiration to do it together.
Yes. I hear you. I love that. You know, I think one of the biggest struggles that people have, that, you know, as a society or as individuals we have, is that we think we're alone, and that causes so much pain. And grief and struggle, and that relief when you know you're not, or you can share a story. But I love your deep contrast. You know, what you say is really, it's so relevant to really for all of us to hear. You know, where are you and where are we in our story and our pain, and what level? And, you know, and then when you meet others in an equal, or if not more so, deeper story of pain and challenge. So instead of it being sort of, you know, meeting somebody that has a vague sort of a light touch of a challenge that doesn't really meet yours at all, it wouldn't have pushed you. But to have gone to the extreme, I mean, the prison is an extreme environment. Like, bless you for that courage, and all your angels that inspired that as well, and all the circumstances to really see, you know. So, I mean, look at their light work, because I know that you recognize the light workers in all the different situations, and, you know, we stand our and have our purpose, even as persecutors sometimes, you know. And they reveal that. I love that, you know, and I just want to sort of reiterate it, that we all sort of take a moment and go like, where can we have the opportunity to be inspired? And that was the part of the inspiration, right?
Yes, and it's something I use a lot in session space. Like, I've just started, you know, a new group of men at Brandplay Maximum Prison, which was that first prison, you know, and they just had their 5th session on Tuesday. And one of the first things is to establish this trusting space, and also begin to lean on each other, to see that each one is a lighthouse for each other. And once we begin to realize that even in the midst of our darkest hour, in our darkest season, that actually there's somebody, when I share, when I open myself and, you know, veil my story, I'm gifting somebody else. And it's a powerful medicine in a circle. And I remember back in 2008, when a man asked me in the same prison, amongst the first inmates that were in my session space, and he asked me, Karina, have you ever harmed someone? Sure. And here sits Karina with all her pretty pictures painted, perfectionist, you know, like it was a part of my armor and my control to survive in the world because of my wounding. And for the first time ever, I actually revealed how angry I was. You know, when nobody was looking, I could really throw things. I could shout at him. I would never, ever have told anybody that, because when we live in deep survival, something's got to give. And something blows up, maybe not outwardly, but inwardly, or towards those we love the most. So to have this deeply honest conversation for the first time was an incredible part of my healing process. And it's become a a signature style in our session space to face the brutal facts, and that we get there quite early in a process to actually, can we say it out loud, what we're dealing with and what we need to face in our journey that blocks us from fully trusting the journey and stepping into our greatness.
Because it's so important, like you say, to be able to confront our vulnerability. And if we don't confront it within ourselves, we need to be able to be brave enough to be vulnerable, and then to move that and shift that and share that with people is such a huge gift, as you say. And I think it's one of the biggest gifts that life coaches, healers can offer people, because when you share that, then we share that commonality of our humanity, right?
Absolutely. And it is that. And it was something that I've really harvested, the last many years in the prison project. What I really learned about being in South Africa is our shared humanity. And that is something we struggle with, as people, to meet in that space. And it's certainly something I've learned from the prison work, from my work with every person, from prisons to boardrooms, and really also to embody the Ubuntu spirit, and not just to let it be a fancy saying on a sticker or a label, but this heartbeat that I'm talking about, that as I came to South Africa, I had this longing to align my heartbeat with hers. And I've really been an apprentice of servant leadership the last 17 years. And through my prison work, I keep learning, what that means to leave nobody behind. So if you're struggling and you're caught in your forgetfulness, and you're out there somewhat lost, rudderless, I'm also out there lost. And for me, it's that human to human. And in any process, when we're seen by somebody else, and we're not seen for our actions or how we've transgressed, but we are seen for who we truly are. And that makes such a big difference.
Absolutely. So beautifully put. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, that no matter who people are, where they're from, what they've done, people want to be seen, they want to be heard.
Yeah.
And it is, and we, I think we're in quite an interesting time, that there is a spiking interest on a more global commercial level. It's not just sort of the alternative people and the artists and the healers, but where people are vocalizing and sharing things of the importance of being heard, being included. I think we're shifting away from the me, myself, and I, only the individual. I stand, special because I'm an individual, and we all have our gifts and whatever, but like the coming together, the sharing of our stories, the sharing, working as a community, that's the Ubuntu, right?
No, completely. And it's something I was taught by South Africa, by the spirit of Ubuntu, by my clients, by my change agents, because I built a team of change agents. I educate coaches, so my entire team, all ex-offenders. And they've really been teaching me what it means to collaborate, that there's a grander collaboration, because I was a lone ranger. I was in pure survival mode. And it's been beautiful to allow myself to soften, actually, and to de-armor, and to realize I'm okay, because the first 17 years I was not okay. I was deeply wounded. I was unsafe. But to actually challenge that reality and no longer allow that to inform this moment. And of course, that's what I help people do, because I've done it myself, to stop financing my old beliefs and actually reclaim my power, actually reclaim my power and say, but that is not true. So what does it mean to be in a collaborative space? and to be in service. Yeah.
I love that. Financing my beliefs. You're so right.
Yes.
Look at that. All of you sitting there, like we do, having a bad day, and then you're like, again, go over the story.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I did that last night. I was chatting to a friend, and I was like going on, and after 10 minutes, I was like, I can't do this. Stop it. I said to Mike, it's boring. Okay, change here. But like we get caught. We can all get caught
Yeah.
with, and I think like everybody has a story, no matter what, whether it comes early in your life, middle of your life, end of your life, that deep crevice of challenge, I think there's a blessing in it coming early so that you have the opportunity to work through it. But when that arrives, it's sort of the arrival of that challenge. Things are dark and difficult. And then sort of moving onto that, you start the desire, if you are inclined for that, to heal, but to heal the self. But it's the real work when you can move through that tunnel and move it to understanding when you move to work of service.
Yes.
That you are healing the one is, healing all is healing you as well, and it's interchangeable. Like, when you work towards work of service and you understand your purpose, we're not alone anymore. The fear dissipates, the opportunity and the what we create a beautiful world instead of a scary fear-based world.
No, completely. I think what is important and what is very important in the work I do is I think we need to learn to hold both.
Yeah.
Being human and our essence, so that's the analogy I always use, because fact is we remain human. So we're not just going to have one challenge. We're not just going to have one tunnel, we're going to have a lot. Yes. So in my leadership gyms, I help people get fit for challenge, and that they kind of step into adulthood and even spiritual adulthood, that they really begin to understand that the power they have and their true essence. But fact is that we are still going to deal with a human. And what I love about that as well is that as long as I'm dancing with my human and the different wounding I have, and it keeps surfacing, I have to keep going and rinsing and deepening. But that is exactly the practice and puzzle piece that enables me to journey with others. Because as long as I am in my work, when I meet others in their work, there's a relatability and there's something that connects us. And it's like, okay, that also, happens for you. So in the way I coach and in the way my entire team of coaches, it's very much about also, we share our journeys as travel companions. We're not there as teachers. It's the first thing when we build our container. It's like, okay, I'm not here to coach you. You're here to coach yourself, but let's travel for a moment together. We're travel companions,
I love that. I agree with you. The best teachers and healers are those that help others heal, like learning how to heal yourself, learning how to teach yourself, learning to be your own teacher, as you say. And then power.
Yes, because it also transitions people. We speak about survival, we speak about awakening, we speak about service, So in my first 17 years and almost up to my first 34 years, it was my purpose to survive.
Yes. And
I did start like around, when the car accident happened in my 30s, I did start to realize there's more, I needed to shift into a purpose to awaken. And as I arrived in South Africa, I was invited in to see in the more collaborative space, to leave the loner space and step into the collaborative space, that there is no such thing as just me. Mm-hmm. And of course, as we are in sharing spaces, we begin to realize that my journey and how you inspire me and your sharing contributes to my journey. So that service naturally comes alive, so it blossoms like this beautiful garden of awakening. And it's, and you begin to harvest in it, and it just clicks into place. So when we develop coaches in our projects, the way we facilitate it, it becomes quite natural to move from purpose to survive, purpose to awaken, to purpose to serve. It's an evolution that takes place. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And I couldn't agree more. You're so right. It really is an evolution, you know, and we hope to get to that place where you're moving from purpose to serve. But it is a process. It's a process. I also love how you said, you know, the puzzle piece, the key is, you know, is that maybe pain, that pain portal, you know, what was that?
Yeah.
And I think with that evolution, learning how to work with that challenge, you know, moving it from the victim
Yeah.
to the desire for healing, to sharing, but not sharing that you are still in the victim, but sharing so that there is a human you know, a human sort of like equal standing ground. So no one is, we all have pain. We all have our pain. And so sharing it as a tool that helps people see our softness, our vulnerability. It's such a fine line, and I think you know what I mean, you know, because it's quite easy to go into your story and sort of go back into that victim thing, or over sort of, well, I did this, but it's always there, like you say, you know, it creeps back our humanness, our sort of struggles every now and again, and it's almost like that humbling thing that like reminds us.
Very much so.
Course.
And it's powerful, you know. I mean, so I work with gangsters. I work with, you know, like inside prison. Of course, I work with CEOs and leaders and entrepreneurs, families and teams, and I work with all kinds of people. But as I step into, of course, move towards the end, you know, end of October into 1st of November, I'm also celebrating 16 years of doing my prison work. And to what you're saying, when we begin actually to pause some of the old stories, because we get insight, we suddenly see that I'm not the only one struggling. And you suddenly see, already after 5 sessions in the maximum prison, there's some big gangsters, you know, they're all, you know, they're active in the numbers, and they're like, wow, I'm not alone in this. And suddenly it feels like just coming to this space is like a watering hole in the desert. That's what I call it in my latest book that I published last year, you know, like, because mostly we've never shared with anyone, and they have never shared with anyone. One man will say, I have never, ever participated in something like this. And they become hungry for more. So they're sparked by what they find in the sharing space. And it becomes such a relief, you know, that they can come for a moment and drink from the well.
Beautiful.
I know, it's powerful. And then suddenly you begin to pause all the narratives and you begin to reassess them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's absolutely amazing. I mean, and you know, you share the prisoners and extreme prisoners sharing their story. Where would they have had the opportunity to share it? So you're going into these environments, the bravery and the, I mean, it is so hugely inspiring. I mean, I listen to it and I think, oh, I'd love to have the power, the courage, you know, to do this work on that level, going to the most extreme environment. I think it is such a fantastic, I mean, the work is astounding, but it's also such an inspiration, because I think we get so scared. Like you said, it's quite easy to stay within your comfort. I'll work with, like, what is easy, you know, and then, you know, and if someone sort of looked at you sort of just on the periphery, and then a gangster, so to speak, how could the world possibly come together and meet? And you've blended this so beautifully. So it really is it really sort of speaks to how we need to just be able to sort of see the light, you know, to share how you see the light within others.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, there's no difference in my work in prisons.
Yeah.
The work I do in other environments, Elaine, it's, we're all imprisoned.
Yes.
We're all imprisoned, and there's really no difference in how I work. I bring my leadership gym. If it's into a prison, if it's into a business, if it's into a family, working with coaches, with healers, to help them stretch their toolkit and also to hold bigger processes, because not everybody has done their root canals, as I call them, and I do deep root canals. I go to the darkest spaces in your experience so you can really stop financing those old beliefs that no longer serve you. But not everybody has been as deep as that, and it's a real privilege. It doesn't really matter where I'm at, and I'm not. It's interesting, when I listen to you saying how brave I am, I don't feel that it's brave to go to prison, and I think it's because of my own journey. I grew up in a lot of violence. I grew up in a lot of abuse. So I relate a lot to the men in prison and their wounding.
Yeah.
I relate to how easily we all perpetrate, Elaine, through harmful behavior. I'm not talking about, that the average person goes out and kills a person.
Yes.
There are many ways of perpetration. I used to be a very angry mom because of my wounding, and I was unkind to my children. That is harmful. And there are many ways in how we harm each other. And I think the message my work brings along is to really look at how we harm and how we can become really honest and face these brutal facts. And we can begin to look at, where can I heal? And maybe I need to heal. Maybe I need this brutal conversation. Am I actually contributing to my family, to my communities? How can I show up differently?
Yes. I like that. And for me, it's really important that you do share your work and what it is you do, not just do the work that you do, because it's very important. You said, oh, I don't find it brave. It doesn't seem brave to go to a prison. Now, if somebody just jumped on right now and heard that individual line and looks at you and like this gorgeous woman sitting in front of us, like, what? That sentence didn't make sense. But I totally hear you, because we need to go and dig deeper. We're in an era we never haven't been, but I think it's such a beautiful time where it's asking us to dig deeper and recognize, that psychological sort of triangle where it's the victim, persecutor, and rescuer. All of us in our lives have been, if not all, at least two, and I don't think anybody in the room could sort of say, no, I haven't been a persecutor in one way or another, or a victim or a rescuer. And we know that we don't really want to be any of those three. You want to be able to be completely and oscillate quite easily between those roles. So I love that you share this. This is such an important message, that we go and dig deeper and see this.
Yeah, well, my first book was The Responsible Individual, which is all about ownership. To deeply own our experience, to begin to work on this project me. And it requires that we call it all out. We say it out loud, and we face those parts of us, because we do all harm. And in the book I'm writing right now, which is my third book, which is the sequel of my first book, and really the beautiful evolution that I've gone through and the toolkit has gone through in this awakened leadership path, and how it's educated me, and in all these beautiful stories that I get access to, and see what people, those leaps they take, like the hero's journey, the heroine's journey, of what, how we need to dig really, really deep to uncover the treasures that are within us. And that's why I call myself an alchemist. Not so much because I'm an alchemist in your journey, on my client's journey, because they have to be their own alchemist, of course, but only if I have turned lead into gold can I walk next to somebody and encourage them to take on that red cape and have the courage to take the leap. And these are big leaps, to leave the world behind, the ordinary world that we know so well, whatever that looks like, because we all have different stories.
Yeah.
But it's important to understand our starting point. So when we leap, that we can begin to really have significant progress.
Yeah. You said something so true, and I listened to a lecture the other day by Stephen Cartridge, an English life coach, who was doing a lecture for coaches as well. And so one of the questions he asked is, you know, what is the most important thing when you are starting your journey in terms of like where you are, in terms of seeing it as a, and he said to understand where you are right now,
Yes,
you know, open
yes,
forum, and people were sort of spouting all sorts of like, you know, trying to be clever with, but actually it was like, where are you? We can't go somewhere if you don't know where you are. So
exactly.
yeah, understanding that.
Completely, you know, so that's also what we teach in our processes, because I educate coaches. So even if somebody that journeys with us is not going to necessarily train as a coach, our approach is to train coaches, because you have to be able to coach yourself. Otherwise, your change is not sustainable. So we leave skills and tools behind. And that is that ability to interview yourself when you have a challenge, to pinpoint and to be really honest with yourself. Well, this is where I'm at, this is my struggle. And based on that, and not just the surface struggle, because there's always something underneath, to actually begin to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and do your own root canals.
Yeah.
So that you can address the real issue. Because a lot of people, and I see, you know, I have a lot of clients coming to me who've been in other coaching processes, but they actually haven't been deep enough to, again, look at the financing of the deepest rooted beliefs. Often we stop at our survival patterns and mechanisms because they're easy to catch, but we haven't gone deep enough to our wounding, which really informs survival.
Yeah.
And that is the healing space we need to allow for ourselves. And that's where my intuitiveness comes in, you know, when I guide people into the inner cave to slay that inner dragon. Yes.
Asking a technical question for you.
Yeah.
So there's obviously, because there are many coaches, and like you just mentioned, like other people have gone to other sort of facilities, but then it hasn't brought them to the deeper layers, and then they often have landed up coming to you. The technique, share with us sort of what's it based on, and how did you come across it? Or is
Okay.
it something you've evolved yourself?
Yes. So my entire coaching methodology has been born in the fire of my own healing. So I'm a very strong channel, which I discovered coming to South Africa, how, you know, that the messages seems to just arrive. So as I do the work, you know, so it's like a gardening, you know, and you pull out those weeds and you turn the soil, and, you know, you really make it fertile. But in order to do that, you know, you got to step out of the stagnation. So the responsible individual is the foundation, where you really learn to treat challenge as your gym. It becomes your ice rink of life. You become the ice skater. You learn to take ownership. Now, the responsible individual is really for people who have not yet really thought about awakening. So it's meant for what I call a level 1 environment, like a prison environment or any unconscious environment. The 10 leadership lessons is a growth igniter that does address, you know, the people a little bit more conscious, but brings in the humanity question. Now, then I have the Awaken the Leader Within, which is the build onto the responsible individuals. Over the last 16 years, I've developed the Circles of Change education. I have an academy called Circles of Change, and all my courses are in there. And next year, we're also going to bring online for people outside who want to learn our coaching methodology, also training people and running big projects like school project, prison projects, you know, so that it can become like almost like a duplicatable scenario, a copy and paste, but really training people. We're also going to write another book next year, Partners in Education, so that we share how we do projects.
Excellent.
So everything is process in my world, you know, and it's very important when you help somebody that you deeply understand and connect to their journey, so you can deeply support their evolution.
100%. Absolutely. So just to fill all of you in, because I'm not sure, some of you I know arrived later, while Karina was chatting, she was referring the names, she was referring to her books that she's written. So The Responsible Individual was published in 2008. The second book was The Growth Igniter, which is the 10 leadership lessons. And then the sequel is going to be published next year. So that just gives you a little bit of a, just to set them up, keep following with us. You know, you're right. Everything is a process. And I think it's also, you know, like you say, people can sort of, yes, work on themselves and it's all good and well, but it's quite easy to get stuck at that comfort level, you know, and it's a matter of going deeper. And then it calls on sort of also, there's a sense of like bravery to go and ask for help. So I've come across, you know, a couple of clients in my time and friends and colleagues sometimes that are working on finding the courage to go and ask for help, you know, which is a big thing.
Completely. I mean, I didn't ask for help. I mean, it's taken me a long time to ask for help and realize that I needed help because, you know, if your reality and your old beliefs like mine was that I'm alone in the world, that I'm not safe in the world, then I didn't really trust anyone. And why would I then ask for help, you know, like, because I was showing outwardly that I'm okay. So it was really, it's big to challenge that belief. But you know, I'm finding, Elaine, that our journey always helps us. And it's something that I didn't really fully understand before I immersed myself in this beautiful South African journey of how challenge helps me unlock my potential. It says, come on, Karina, you want me, you know, on this mountain, you got, you know, that's where champions are born. And so instead of shying away from challenge, you know, it's again, that's what we encourage a lot in our process. It's like really learning to use it because life is challenging and that is a fact. But what is my mindset around the challenge? So like, as I said in my second book, The Growth Igniter, can I have a beginner's mind instead of using my old beliefs? You know, can I walk into it childlike?
Yes. But the openness that a child brings.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Because there's quite a distinct thing. Also, instead of the childish emotions,
yes,
it's child, you know, curiosity, childlike curiosity, which is so important. There was something I was going to say, and it's sort of left my mind, but it will come to the fore. Again, just it really is it's a, you know, you said to understand that our challenges have, you know, speak to you, call you and say you need me. And what made me think is like, you know, within my own journey that I've gone through, it gave such a level of depth. And if I think about, you know, what I was asking for prior to a big life experience of my cancer journey, my question that kept on coming up for me was, I was really wanting more. I mean, there was a frustration, there were very things, but there was this desire to have more depth. I mean, there were a couple of things I could just narrow down to. Am I right? Yeah, I felt alone, completely alone. And I had this deep desire for just more. I had such a great metaphor. I was working in an environment in the film industry, which I loved dearly, and I painted. I was doing the thing I loved the most, but it really didn't quite hold water. It's not like it was life-changing for anybody. You know, it was entertainment, which is lovely, but it wasn't making a riveting difference in anybody's life. So I love that you're saying it's important that we recognize, like, when these challenges come, not to push them away and curse them, but go recognize they've come. And, you know, I think it's also important to, like, recognize they're visitors. They're not there as these, like, demons, which is what a lot of people describe and can often describe sort of a challenge like. cancer, for example, but to recognize sort of, what if they're visitors? Visitors don't stay forever. They can, come and go and maybe bring some gifts along with them. And they certainly give gravitas to our life journey. So I totally hear you on that. I couldn't imagine not having that depth. That was what I was like raving, and I felt like things were just, it didn't matter if I didn't have that depth. So to recognize that, how do you people approach you and they have their difficult scenarios, and how do you teach that to someone who isn't quite there to recognize it?
Well, a journey has different phases, Elaine. So the first phase is the phase of release. So most clients come because they're stuck, and they are wounded, they're hurt, they're in a very challenging scenario. So first is really holding space for the release and allowing to give space for that, because most people don't really have a space to release or to be heard, to be seen in their challenge, So that's the first part of it. And then we begin to turn challenge into opportunity. We begin to see, well, but wait a minute, I'm the one who creates the challenge. I mean, I know something is happening to me, but I fill it up with whatever story I have and whatever I feel about the challenge. So we turn the challenge into an opportunity. We look at the purpose, we open a gateway, and that is the gateway to our past, because we need to map our inner landscape, and that's where the depth work comes in. So we're learning through the challenge to meet parts of us that we left behind. And we begin to understand that, wait a minute, what I experienced today is linked to past experiences. Actually, the visitors from my past that wants to connect with me. Actually, there's spaces of myself I've left, I've locked away, I have not yet healed. And once we begin to create those connections and take back our power, because again, we mostly finance the past and we're not fully living in the present moment. So that's really where the journey starts, and the toolkit starts shaping and forming session by session by session, so that we really relook at how we see ourselves. We really create a new identity, because most of the way we show up in the world is based on those old beliefs. So we are renegotiating everything in our lives, actually, and getting a significant upgrade also energetically, because very often we vibrate very low. So feeling is revealing. It's beautiful. I mean, change is not rocket science. And once we begin to understand the dynamics and get the toolkit, it actually becomes, well, challenge is never fun, but, the student in us likes challenge, says, I'm going to use this moment in the best possible way. Yes.
And also because the minute you do start utilizing those tools, once somebody is in that process, and in the part of the process where curiosity has been perked up and interest, there is such significant change that happens so quickly that it feels good. And then, like you said, obviously raises the vibration. You can feel it in your cells, whether people understand what's going on, but from the inside you feel better, and it shows on the outside. So that upgrade is important.
It's a 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. And it's also important to really get the student online in us is important, because what often happens when people go into process is that they're looking for fixes, like I want to get fixed. And when the next challenge comes, they're flat on their nose again, So it's again, to really have lasting change, sustainable change, you gotta have the student active in you, and a toolkit that you can apply every day, so that you become your own, master. You're the one leading your life and your change.
And you say toolkit, I love that, because I worked in the film industry for years, and I was in the construction department. A lot of time we're always like, the toolkit, like my sister said, do you know, your metaphors are always construction based. I was like, well, it was because of this. I was like, I get the toolkit. And, you know, within the toolkit, there aren't, it isn't like it's a toolbox. There isn't just one tool. You've got a couple of tools, and you hold those out and they're appropriate according to where you are, what day it is, where you are in your journey. But to have a couple on hand, or have a couple in your box.
No, it's very important. And what's really exciting, like in the book I'm publishing, which is my entire coaching methodology. So there's my wheel of consciousness, which gives, you know, my clients and those that want to journey and have that toolkit, it gives them 8 disciplines to follow and to practice, to actually awaken that inner leadership, to get back into the resourcefulness, you know, to switch on the light. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I just love your approach. I love your attitude. It is so encouraging, and then at the same time also you make us feel like it's so attainable. You know, you relatable. We can all do this. You know, that's what you need from the coach. Like, you can do it. And so, you know, I thank you for this so much, along with the openness of you sharing your story. So I'd like to, I know everybody, I can see those whose videos are on, and I can see everybody's really interested. I'd like to open it up and just offer people the opportunity to ask any questions at this point. You know, unmute yourselves, wave your hand, and don't be shy. So just that you know, please join our conversation. I'm just looking around the room to see if anybody is feeling brave enough or wants to ask anything while we continue just chatting. While people are deciding if they actually want to speak up or just listen to us for a while, what advice with where the world is now in terms of things have changed quite. I'm going to shift here a little bit. Things are in a very different place. And we don't have to have a COVID conversation, but the world is different now to where it was in 2019. What are the things that you are finding are becoming kind of more common ground today that you're noticing that weren't around, you know, prior to us having gone through a very strange 3 years?
I think, I think it's really important because it's something that shook everybody. You know, it's something we all have in common. And I think what I'm seeing also in leadership spaces, it's really this, people are calling for heart, are calling for humanity, that we're putting heart back in leadership. And I think that's really, really important, because we can no longer, you know, live in inauthentic spaces. We got to have these real conversations. And, you know, that's also why so many fall through the cracks, Elaine, because we're all responsible. We all own a share in the well-being of our collective. And if somebody's out there struggling, why am I not, you know, asking, how can I help? So putting heart back into our conversations, reaching out. And I think that's certainly what COVID, I feel, has done for many. You know, there's been a gathering, and we're really good at that, especially in South Africa as well. You know, that we have this sense of community, and we struggle well together. There can also be, of course, you know, we shouldn't get too good just to be in the struggle, or be able to breathe underwater, you know, and also get into a thriving space. But I do think it's relevant that we tap into this, and that we leverage this opportunity, and that we also call out the things that we don't think, you know, are okay. That we become a little bit more activists in the journey. And I've always said, and I'm a little bit of a silent activist. The last 16 years, I worked maybe more silently in my prison work. I just show up to serve. I'm not that loud about it, but I want to be louder. You know, like I actually want to take my prison work much further. I want to raise funds for it. I want to reach 10,000 inmates the next, you know, 5 years, because it matters. And not just from a because I think about the prison population, but I think it's a beautiful symbolism for us all.
Totally.
You know, totally, you know, and I think we need to have these conversations that matter. Yeah, so I'm becoming more vocal. And also as I go into this month to celebrate my 17th year here in South Africa, I'm going to air some workshops about my 3 chapters, you know, like that people can tap into, you know, like it will also be for free because I, you know, really want to gift. There'll be more interviews, you know, also with me and my change agents, and so that you can drink from this beautiful oasis that we experience in our world, you know. So I just welcome everybody to beginning having these conversations that matter, like the one we're having today as well, you know. Yes.
I hear you completely, and it's definitely, and then again, you know, it's so important to notice, you know, where our minds are. Our minds at the glass is half full or half empty. I do love that. It's definitely, you know, living in South Africa, it's definitely an interesting country that gives one such a great opportunity to sort of thrive in our challenges, right? I mean, I think we have them in an abundance. One doesn't have to get used to, like you say, being in that challenge mode all the time, but it makes us really tough. It makes us okay, great, Trace, I'm on it. It gives us the opportunity to think out of the box, but also to collaborate. And this time now, I couldn't agree with you more, to really find your voice, like, so important.
Yeah.
I never thought I would be, I mean, many years ago, before I even taught yoga, as much as I loved it, I did teacher training. So I remember thinking, I'm never going to teach. I'm not going to stand up in front of people. It's a really interesting thing. Years later, now sharing, because I was really comfortable behind the scenes, literally in film. I was behind the scenes, painting the backdrop away from the camera. But it's so important to sort of seize the moment. It makes us resilient. You're right, Lisa. Absolutely, seize the moment and find our voice. You know, really use this like throat chakra and come together. Communities need that. You know, I just sort of have this feeling of like, come together, allow ourselves in the circle to be heard and share. So absolutely.
Yeah.
I see that Tracy wanted to make a comment. Unmute yourself, Trace.
I'll unmute myself. I'll show myself. Hello again.
Hello.
Thank you, Karina. That was really lovely to hear. And I think often when I hear from people like yourself who are in this light working space, they often come from a place of hurt and past, you know, really big challenges. And then I wonder how someone like myself, who has had a very, very easy, happy, joyful, blissful life, can feel so drawn to wanting to help others too. And I was thinking about it a lot while you were talking, because it often comes to me that sometimes you almost feel like, I can't, the fraud isn't the right word, but I can't think of the right word, because you haven't gone through those challenges yourself. And like you said to, you know, the one guy asked you, have you ever hurt anyone? And, you know, when you're sitting with someone who's going through something big and you want to be there for them and tell them, I'm here for you, but you don't understand what they are going through at all. Yeah, so I sit with that sometimes, but then what now towards the end resonated with me, and where I felt, okay, that is it. That's exactly what it is. It's where you spoke about people wanting more heart in spaces, more heart in life spaces. And I think that's where sometimes when we haven't had big challenges, we can come with our big hearts to sit and to be there and to love and to help and to offer guidance from a place of unbroken, hurt places too, because that light shines brightly for others. So that I wanted to say that. So thank you everybody for being here, and it's been so nice to be back, Elaine. So thanks for bringing Karina on and for tonight.
Thank you, Trace. That was beautiful. I love that you shared that. I don't know if you want to make comment first, Karina.
Yeah, I think we all have different, like callings and different people we work with, I think it's really important not to compare journeys, like I'm very mindful of that. I think the prison work I'm called to, it does require my deep wounding. And I realize that I can leverage that. And for them, it's like I show you my wound, you show me yours, like the scars. And that brings me into the car very fast with them now. But we all have different, journeys that we're working on. It doesn't make it more or less. And there needs to be a lot of light in this world, Tracy, because this world, as many light workers as there are, but there's a lot of darkness. So please just shine your light, and follow that beautiful pull towards what you love. And, that you need not have doubt, because your heart will know, our heart always knows. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks, Karina.
I want to add to that, so I know Tracy personally, and Tracy's just a sunbeam, and I don't need to say this, but honestly, your vibration is so, I would say yellow. It's like bright like a sunflower. And so when you're with her, you feel better anyway.
Yeah.
And I want to share a story with you, Trace, and everybody is, in terms of many years ago. I remember a friend of mine was in a clinic with an issue that I couldn't personally relate to, because I didn't have that issue. I'd never had that issue. And I remember driving to go and visit this friend of mine and thinking, I don't know really how to give her some form of support. I didn't know how to be like, how do I? And it dawned on me that compassion up until that point was something I understood if I had gone through that exact situation, and then I could go, oh, I've been through that, so I know how you're feeling. And I drove there and I kind of had this conversation with my guides and said, well, I don't know how she's feeling, and I've never had this, and I don't know what to say. And I'm like, and help, because I don't know how useful I'm going to be. And I was feeling a little frustrated. I was almost feeling a little like irritated, because there was part of me that had heard the same story for a while. I was like, I'm just not able to find this level of compassion. And something downloaded, because I opened up and I asked. I was like, what do I do? Not expecting anything to really happen. But when I arrived and I walked in and I saw her, I just sat and I listened. And I understood that compassion was just her needing to be heard. And I almost witnessed myself just listening. And that restored our friendship, not only sort of her feeling better, but it restored the depth of our friendship, which for years now, I've used this understanding that if I haven't gone through an experience, understanding compassion is opening your heart and listening. That you do naturally. That's just your nature. I mean, really, Tracy is a person, she just listens. I often think, come, share. And you do, but you have this ability and you let people feel so heard. So I wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Elaine. That's very kind of you.
It's true. It's just because it's true.
Well, I've been enjoying listening tonight, that's for sure.
Good. Is there anybody else in the house that wants to share any thoughts or has any questions? Okay, so I want to, yes, Daphne. Unmute yourself. Yes, just unmute yourself. You can, the left, yes, there we go.
I just want to say thank you for the work that you do in prisons. I've always been very interested, and I have had occasion to go into prisons. The prison that I went into, anyone could come in and anyone could go out. The people at the gates were absolutely disinterested in being security. So that was one thing. But I found out that the work that they were doing at the one other prison that I went to in Worcester was they were making coffins.
Wow.
That was the work, that was the carpentry, and there was some other thing. So this was just sensational to hear that things can change. And I wonder if more people are able to go and do this wonderful work that you do. So I just wanted to say I'm very pleased. It was quite about 30 years ago that I did, or yeah, something like that. So I'm delighted to hear. Thank you very much for bringing it to us, Elaine. Okay.
Pleasure. Thank you, Daphne, and thank you, Karina. You see, it's lovely to hear that such progress is going on. So being such a beautiful agent of change, Karina. Your last sort of just end of notes, just to sort of send us through, share with us, the upcoming year. You're in your third chapter now. Things, yes. Share with us just a little bit about that now.
Well, concluding, know, the third chapter and really stepping into my fourth journey, which is, I think, really leveraging all the teachings, like really allowing, if you can imagine, I have this shopping bag and I've been harvesting in all my different seasons. I have clarity on why I'm here, and I'm an instrument for change. I help people translate, their journeys of change. That's why, that I specialize in shifting stuck places. So I'm really excited about publishing, my book beginning of the new year. So that's a big one for me. Also doing more prison work, absolutely working with many more beautiful people who want to train as coaches in our method, so that's going to be a big part of next year as well. And continuing collaborations and partnerships and really seeing how things come together, so again, I want to remain a student of my journey and be in this beautiful surprise of the unfolding, as John O'Donoghue also says, be like a river flows in a surprise of its own unfolding. And that's really my intention and my invitation as well to each person and each one who's going to listen in as well and have listened tonight, when it comes to really stepping into your own power and understanding what it means to be of service. And I want to continue to listen to that. How can I best serve, in this country? But also it starts at home. So it starts with my family, it starts with my children, with my partner, with, like everybody that is in my circle. And what does that actually mean? And of course, the larger circle. And I'm really excited. Also, I've manifested the most beautiful home. So that's a big part of this next season of really living in harmony with everything and being aligned to what I'm here to do, actually. So I hope you are gonna, benefit from my books and my talks and keep following my work, and most of all, you know, like, promise me to do your own work. You know, that's my message for all of you out there, you know, that how important it is to reclaim your power, stop financing the things that keep you playing small. You know, we're all here to do something really, really special, and it doesn't matter, wounded or not, we all have a significant purpose here on this planet, you know. So just keep being curious, you know, and let that gift unfold, unpack it.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. Get involved, you know.
Involved, exactly.
Yes. Stop being
Yes.
a witness to your own life and participate.
Get in the driver's seat, exactly.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
Tell me something. Where's your book going to be published? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be in the bookstores? Where can people expect to get hold of? I mean, I love real copies.
No, me too. Yeah, it will definitely be published, you know. So my first 2 books I've self-published because I've donated the proceeds towards, you know, the work I do in service in our country. I am going to republish the first book as well, you know, like an anniversary copy. And I'm sure we're going to put it out in the bookstores at some stage. You know, I've just until now sold them via our Circles of Change.academy. So that's a way to see the work I do, to see our courses, to get a hold of the books as well directly via circlesofchange.academy and reaching out to me. But there's no doubt that I want to put it out in bookstores as well. Exactly who's going to publish it, I don't know yet. You know, I'm going to decide on what I'm going to manifest. Let's see. I'm in the surprise of the unfolding of the journey. So
Yes, see where the river flows.
See where the river flows. Exactly. I'm trusting.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And so I just want to let you all know what I'm going to do. And as I'm telling all of you, I'm asking Karina to send me a WhatsApp of your details where people can get hold of you.
Okay.
You're open to people getting hold of you in terms of consult. If they're interested, there are quite a few coaches. I know you guys, you all amazing.
Beautiful.
They're sitting in the house, quietly sitting humbly and sitting in the house. And so just to put it out there, so there are courses available if anybody is interested. And I know a lot of you, I can see already, are writing down notes and jotting down things. So if you could share your details in a WhatsApp, and then what I do is I send it out to the group. A quick note, those of you that are newer and haven't been to conversations before, perhaps Leanne, I'm just looking in the house. I will put Mike, if you can put my phone number in the group chat to everybody, my cell phone number, and then Leanne, you can write it down. Paul as well. If you want to be part of conversations once a month, we have a guest speaker. So I just want to conclude and just say a hearty thank you, Karina. It is an absolute joy chatting to you. I just love chatting to you. You inspire me. I'm so excited. I'm so happy that you were my first guest. I'm like, I could chat to you for hours and hours. I really hope that we can do collaborations one day. I think it would be amazing if we could set up a workshop. We could discuss and see where that is, but I chat to you and I get excited about moving forward. So thank you for joining in the kitchen, and please know to pop in and be a guest again. I'd love to hear what's going on. Maybe sometime next year you can pop in again. We might even have a little collaboration session in December. I always do my final one to end of the year, and perhaps we can bring sort of 3 or 4 of us in keeping with what it is we're doing, and that would be so lovely. So thank you for joining. Thank you to all of you for coming and arriving, because without you coming, there's no conversation. This is not a podcast where you just go to YouTube and you listen to something that wasn't live. It's about you guys sitting with us in the kitchen. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Karina.
Thank you so much. I've loved being here, really. So thanks for the invite. I love being in your kitchen and being amongst beautiful souls.
Oh, my pleasure. Absolute pleasure. So lots and lots of love. Thank you. And we're going to chat again soon. So look out for all the information on Karina. I'll send it tomorrow morning. And please, next month, Dr. Vignesh is back in the house. However, with this load shedding, I think he's going to come on a Sunday. It will be the last 2 Sundays in October. I'm waiting for an answer from him, either the 22nd or the 29th. I will let you know, but stay tuned. So thank you, everybody. Go and have a good evening and a good weekend, and enjoy the sunshine in Cape Town while it lasts. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.